Hey guys, it's John, back with another Anti-Guru video, and today's video we're going to go into the press release that was announced about the further changes to the planning system and permitted development rights, where we think this is going to take us, that kind of thing. And my thesis that none of this is new. This is all known, this is all old, this is all interesting, but not new. Join me in the next few minutes and we'll go into detail in what has been put out on the press release. Right, so here's the thing, none of this is new. Sorry, a lot of the gurus have been saying, oh wow, new permitted, no, not new. Not new at all. We've known about it for a while. In fact, we've known about it since as early as about 2016, when the government started talking about changes to the system, trying to make the ability to put housing, the ability to change use, trying to make that easier, more straightforward, more simple. Now, the government announced in its press release some additional changes, a lot of which are interlinked. They're interrelated to each other. And so it's really important to understand how they link together. So let's go through them. I'll explain where they come from and what we think is going to happen. Now, the first and most important thing to say is we think this is all going to happen by the 22nd. Now, we say the 22nd of July because of what the government has said itself. The government has said that it wants all of the regulations to come into force on the 1st of September. Now, if you look at how the government agenda works for the next few months, you'll notice that the government goes on its summer holidays on or about the 23rd of July and comes back on the 1st of September. So what that means is that this is all timed to be through regulation stage, so to have a new regulation released on or before the 22nd of July. That's how we can be confident about that date. We say the 23rd, it actually rises on the 24th, but the last working day in government is never a working day. It's just a let's rise and off we go on our summer holidays. So in order to get everything done, they have to have the regulation in place, voted through Parliament, because the regulations have to go through Parliament by the 22nd in reality. Now, we think there's going to be quite a lot of changes occurring, but let's deal with these bits and pieces as they arise through the press release. What the government are wanting to do, first and foremost, is modify the use classes order. Now, they've said use classes order quite pointedly. They have not said general permitted development order, the thing that allows you to flip between classes. They've said use classes order. What they've said here is more types of commercial premises having total flexibility to be repurposed through reform of the use classes order. Now, what we think they're going to do here, again, we've looked at all of the information, the manifesto, previous statements, planning reform statements, etc., 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 the white paper. What we think they're going to do there is create a new use class. And that new use class is going to be a superclass, an amalgamation class. Now, we have superclasses already. C3 is a superclass containing 3 subsets. B1 is a superclass containing 3 subsets. B2 is a superclass containing pretty much every general industrial use you can think of, subject to some restrictions. So we think we're going to get a new superclass. And that new superclass is going to be everything they want in a town centre that can have flexibility to flip inside a town centre, i.e. a town centre use, super use. On the day that comes in, any use that was previously in its old use class will slip into the new town centre super use. The recent example of that, of course, is HMOs. HMOs used to be in the dwelling house use, C3, and now form C4. And on the day that came in, they inherited the new use class. They got subdivided out. So that's what we think is going to happen. Now, that has quite a wide range of impacts, but that automatically then leads on to the next thing in the statement, which is a wider range of commercial buildings will be allowed to change to residential use without the need of planning permission. Let's think about that. If we create a new super use, a new superclass, what happens to all of the permitted development rights that previously relied upon the older classes? So take class M, for example. What happens to class M if suddenly the uses that it relied upon, A1, A2 and A5, all belong to a big super use class A? What happens there? Is it actually the case that if they create this new super use, they can then start lumping lots of permitted development into the same class? So take class M, which is the most logical, the most obvious. If they create this super use, which includes offices and cafes and all of that gubbins, can they then start lumping everything into class M and say, well, it's class A development, super use is class A. So we're going to include everything in class A in the new class M. Now, what we think is going to happen is actually a massive rewrite of the permitted development rights, because there are a lot of individual use permitted development rights that rely upon use classes that may very well become obsolete or extinct as a result of the changes to the use classes order. So we think there's going to be a new permitted development order proposed and issued before the 1st of September. The other thing that makes us think that way is because of what's happening with Part 20. Now, Part 20 is the brand new dwellings permitted development right, construction of new dwellings, in this case flats. Part 20 is a brand new component. We previously had 19 parts to the General Permitted Development Order. Now we're getting 20 parts to the General Permitted Development Order. But it leads us on, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewer, to what is happening? Because it would be very easy then for the government to insert 2 new parts into Part 20. We've got Part 20A. I think we're going to see Part 20B and Part 20C, which leads off from the consultations that have been occurring, because Part 20B could very well be the knockdown and rebuild rights that they're proposing as part of the press release. So knockdown commercial, rebuild as residential, knockdown residential, rebuild as residential. That is ideal for Part 20, because Part 20 is the construction of new dwellings part. And then Part 20C could be an addition to existing commercial buildings. Property owners will be able to build additional space above their properties via a fast track application process subject to neighbourhood consultation. Let's think about that. Doesn't that sound like permitted development to you? Interesting, eh? So here we have a whole sequence of permitted development rights being proposed, all for roughly the same time, and all leading off of work done previously. All these changes are planned to come into effect by September. That's where this timing is so critical, in order to bring it forward by September. It doesn't say by the end of September, it says by September. They have to consult on it by the end of term this month, ideally by the 22nd. As I said, none of this is new. The changes to use classes order are really interesting, because that is actually going back in time. That's going back to planning in the 50s, where the use classes order for town centre uses was broad, it was massive. The only thing you couldn't put into that town centre use class was a cat food shop or a pet shop or a shop selling tripe or a fish and chip shop. Of course, now we know it's different. Watch this space. I think it's going to be really interesting, really exciting. As you can see, my thesis very much, none of this is new, it's well known. We've known about it for a while. All you have to do is read the consultations that have gone previously, or the Conservative Party manifesto. And it's going to be really interesting. This Summer of Boris, what happens? But obviously we'll have a good month to digest the new regulation when it gets released on or before the 22nd. It has to be done then because of the summer recess for Parliament. Have a great day, everyone. Dear viewer, thank you very much for sticking it out. Do share, like, subscribe, comment. Most importantly, share. We want to get as much of this information out to people as possible. And I'll catch you on the next Anti-Guru. Have a good day.